Orange isn't exactly the first color that comes to mind when you think of a German watch brand. German watchmaking usually makes me think of silver, white and blue dials. But then there's NOMOS, the brand known for their daring but tasteful colored dials. And so today it is orange all the way. And we Dutchies, yeah, we like our orange colors. So let's roll the intro and dive deeper into these very limited NOMOS Metro watches. These are the ACE and NOMOS Metro Neomatik 35 and Metro Neomatik 39 watches. Two limited editions created to celebrate 50 years of ACE Jewelers. And while they may look like a simple change of color, there's actually quite a lot going on here. So let's take a closer look. ACE Jewelers is an Amsterdam-based jeweler with a long history of creating special editions with some very cool watch brands. For their 50th anniversary they teamed up with NOMOS and Mark Braun, the designer behind the Metro, to create something quite different. Two Metros, same idea, same movement, same orange, but two very different personalities. If we look at the Dutch connection to the color orange, we can notice that it is not the color of the Dutch flag. Which is probably why we Dutch people decided to compensate by putting it absolutely everywhere else. Sports, King's Day, the royal family and pretty much any national event where there is an excuse to wear something orange. So although this isn't literally a Dutch flag colored watch, it certainly has a very Dutch personality to it. And I think that's exactly why it works. The Metro has always been one of the NOMOS' more unconventional designs. Designed by Mark Braun, it combines a very clean, almost Bauhaus inspired dial with these distinctive wire style lugs. And that gives the watch a surprisingly elegant appearance. It makes me think of the brand Cartier, but here it is done with a typical glashütte styling. The case is polished stainless steel with a beautifully domed sapphire crystal that rises almost seamlessly from the case. And at just 8.4mm thick on the 39 version, yeah, it is an extremely elegant watch. Now I personally always get impressed when watches are exceptionally thin. I find that it makes them more attractive aesthetically, but also because of the engineering that goes behind watches like these. Achieving a thickness of, in this case, just over 8mm, yeah, it's not easy to develop, create and manufacture. And it makes the wearing experience also exceptionally comfortable. The smaller version is even more restrained, 35mm in diameter and even more impressively just 8mm thick. For strap changing we have a 17mm lug width on the Metro 35 and 19mm on the 39 version. But to give you an overview of all the specifications, here they all are on the screen. Now let's be honest, you're not buying these because of the case. You're buying them because of the dial. And with the 39 we see a bright orange dial, but matched with a darker orange small second sub-register. This is in my opinion the more punchy and fresh version out of the two. And then NOMOS flips the recipe on the 35. The dial is laid out here in that warmer darker orange tone, but the small seconds becomes the lighter element. I particularly like the contrast that both versions are offering on the dial with that clean minute track. We can see Arabic numerals every 5 minutes and little black dots around the edge of the dial as a minute track, and those incredibly thin black syringe shaped hands stretching all the way to the outer edge of the dial. One of the things I really enjoy about NOMOS is their typography. It's precise, functional and incredibly clean, but somehow it never feels sterile. And on the Metro the typography almost becomes part of the architecture of the dial. The orange only enhances that effect, giving the whole thing a little more warmth and personality. It looks simple, but simple is usually where things get difficult. And this is where choosing between the two becomes interesting. The 39 is obviously the more contemporary choice. It has more presence and gives that bright orange dial a larger canvas. The 35, however, has more depth, more warmth, and dare I say, a bit more drama. The darker orange pulls you into the details, like the darker orange Neomatik text at the 12 o'clock position. And in the case of the 35, it doesn't actually wear like a conventional 35mm watch because of those longer wired lugs. Personally, I think the 35 is the more interesting watch, and I could definitely pull this one off on my 6.7 inch wrist. But let me know in the comments below which one you would choose. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments. Inside both watches we can find the NOMOS DUW 3001 in-house automatic movement. It's only 3.2mm thick and still gives you around 43 hours of power reserve. You get the 27 jewels, the NOMOS swing system and the kind of traditional glashütte finishing you'd expect from NOMOS. Ribbing, blue screws, perlage. Yeah, it's just very nicely done. On the wrist, this is where the Metro makes even more sense. It's thin, it's light, and despite those unusual lugs, it sits beautifully on the wrist. NOMOS delivers many of their watches on a Horween genuine shell cordovan black strap, and the one on these ACE and NOMOS Metro Neomatik models is excellent. It's soft, subtle, finished well and incredibly comfortable. But I do think NOMOS could have taken a little bit more risk by offering additional options for their watches. So I have been playing around with AI to generate some pictures with strap options. So please don't judge the incorrect details. Here they all are on the screen. Personally, I'd love to see NOMOS offer a few more options like these in the future, because the cordovan is excellent, but the playful and colorful dials deserves a little bit of fun. Now both versions disappear easily underneath the cuff, while still adding a little splash of color to an otherwise conservative outfit. While the 39 has more presence with a brighter orange dial, the 35 feels a little bit more discreet. But neither feels out of place with a suit or with something much more casual. And that's something I really like about NOMOS watches. They're ready to wear for every attire. And then we have the slightly less romantic part of the review. The price. The Metro Neomatik 35 is 3,560 euros including VAT, as whereas the 39 is currently priced at 3,700 euros on the ACE Jewelers website. Now my initial thought was that it is a lot of money for a relatively simple three-hand watch, but you're getting a in-house movement, excellent finishing, a beautifully executed case, and more importantly a very limited watch. That's also a very unique watch, because these aren't regular production watches. Just 50 pieces of each size were made, individually numbered, and the first 10 set of both versions were offered with matching numbers. So if you're looking at these from a collector's perspective, it's a pretty compelling package from ACE and NOMOS. So what do I think? Well, I think these watches are a perfect example of why limited editions can be so much fun when a brand does it just occasionally. Because that keeps the limited edition that they do bring out, well, quite special. NOMOS didn't redesign the Metro, they didn't add a complication. They simply gave it color, and sometimes, well, that's just enough. I feel that the 39 is the bolder choice out of the two, as whereas the 35 is the more understated one. But both have that wonderfully strange combination of German restraint and Dutch enthusiasm, which when you think about it is actually a pretty good combination. So these are the ACE and NOMOS Metro Neomatik 35 and 39. Two watches, 50 pieces each, and quite possibly the most Dutch looking NOMOS watches ever made. If you enjoyed this review, consider subscribing, it really helps the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, goodbye.